It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay, welcome to Dart Talk.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
October 2nd, 2012. Steve Pnuncielman with Mystery Mark. Yet another episode of Dart Talk.
Ready and raring to go.
So you missed the Ryder Cup, huh?
I missed Sunday's events, yes.
Steve Stricker's on Suicide Watch. Yeah, it's...
the only part I saw was I briefly saw the fact that the score all of a sudden was 11-9, and at that point I was like, "Oh boy, it's trouble," because they'd only won they won one match and lost five out of the first six, so I knew there was trouble brewing.
Yeah, it was. I kind of had an inkling Saturday night. I kind of thought, you know what? I don't know about this.
Yeah, after they got those last 2 points to tighten it up at 10-6.
Yeah, and it wasn't like all the guys played bad, but, you know, like the guys you're really counting on, like the big guns all, like, gagged.
Yeah.
Like in a major, major way. Especially, you know, Mickelson from the middle of the fairway on 18, airmails the green. Steve Stricker bogeys from 2 feet off the green.
Which he probably hasn't done in years.
You know, and then, you know, you got Woods, you know. Match play is such a coin flip, you know, between good guys. And, you know, good for England. Fair play to England. They, you know, those guys played good, but our guys, you know.
Didn't.
No, not at all. So, I mean, that was kind of bad. Condolences on the White Sox.
Yeah. I saw that coming, too. I saw that coming quicker than I saw the Ryder Cup.
Well, yeah. If you're going to lose like 10 of 12 in the latter stages of September, you're not supposed to win.
Right.
Yeah, so... No. That was all. I didn't mind that so much. Anyway, we're going to talk a lot about Dartslive. I was in Vegas over the weekend, and let me tell you that
enjoyable.
Well, yeah, but it was more than enjoyable. I mean, it was in a lot of ways exemplary as far as tournament goes.
Oh, okay.
As far as like if you're gonna put a tournament on, and you're going to try to include everybody, and you're going to try to make a production of it, and hit a lot of the things that we've been talking about for over a year now. Where for the stage final, for the big event on Saturday, there are at least, minimum, 500 people watching.
Really?
I haven't seen that many people watching a dart match in America in my life.
Ever. Well, that's good.
And I've seen YouTube.
Were they cheering? Or was
they were
quiet?
Going nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, they were going nuts, and they were going nuts the next day, too. Actually, in the final was I don't know if he's from southern Wisconsin or he used to be in Wisconsin. Now he lives like out like in DeKalb or something, northern Illinois. There are guys screaming themselves hoarse for him.
Really?
Like his buddies. Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah,
how'd you do?
Not so good.
No.
Not so good. I was in the money a couple of times. I was in the money in the 4-person gallon, which was the last event on Sunday where they take like, you know, a pro, an A player, a B player, a C player,
right.
and kind of blind draw them together. And then I was in the money in the pro draw. Made top 4 in Friday night. We lost to the winners. It was John Part and somebody else. So
okay.
So we have some results
from
Dartslive, and you know there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
The Dartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, thank you, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. I don't really know where to start.
How about the difference of throwing into
like
a soft
the thing
soft
about
tip tournament?
Oh gosh. Well,
was it
the
noticeably different?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences between playing steel and soft. For steel tip players, I mean, there's some mental traps you want to avoid, but guys avoided it rather successfully. The steel tippers did really well.
Okay.
The guy who won it's primarily a steel tipper, and then two other guys that were in the top 4 are steel tippers. Who one guy never played soft tip before, another guy just only played it occasionally. So steel tippers can play soft tip.
Yeah.
I mean, the format's different, and I'm kind of going back and forth in my head on this. I'm not wild about it. You play 7-on-1 cricket in the first 4 legs.
Yeah.
It's mugs away, so loser starts the next leg, which, I always find somewhat aggravating.
Yes.
That your reward for breaking somebody's throw is you get to go second in cricket. Gee,
thanks.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's still crucial that if it gets to the 5th leg, you win the diddle. In the 5th leg, if you win the diddle, it's your choice whether to go first or pick the game.
Okay.
And of course, you're going to pick going first. And then I did something we could talk about. I did something extremely unorthodox, but my strategy worked perfectly. I just kind of didn't execute, one shot. So we could talk about that. I don't know. I thought I actually played pretty good, overall. I didn't play perfect by any means, but I played all right.
Right.
I didn't get very far. I was out in the 2nd round of the big singles, and I was out in the 1st round of the pairs. Sorry about that, John. Played with John Denich, transplanted Canadian from California, and we lost to a couple of really good, I think they're Japanese players, and they went 9-count.
Oh, really?
In the we won the 3rd leg. We're still down 2-1, and then they get to start the cricket, and they go 9-count. And I'm like, ooh, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. And, we failed to achieve total victory and fell perfect to imperfect darts. We fell victim to imperfect darts.
Did you?
That happens.
Right. All right.
So, but it was an interesting experience. One of the things that we've always kind of harped on, with the show, is that it's incumbent on tournament organizers, their first 2 priorities is to provide playing conditions so players can play their best, and then to provide a tournament experience where it's enjoyable for everyone, as enjoyable as it can be when you fail to achieve total victory, which, in every event I fail to achieve total victory, which is, fine. I mean, guys outthrow you. You shake their hands and, no problem. There were a couple of interesting things that went on.
As far as
one was
throwing
they
darts?
do well. They run this tournament differently. It's much different than probably most tournaments that people go to. For instance, Friday night in the blind draw, like I said, me and this guy Willie Walker from I think he said he was from Tacoma or Seattle, somewhere in Washington State. We made top 4. We lost to John Part and another guy, and they didn't pay us. They asked us to wait around because they wanted a picture session. So we're like, well, how long is this going to be? Because it's already like 11 o'clock at night or whatever. And at the same time that we're playing in the draw, we had to play this shootout thing, which determined what your seating would be for the big event on Saturday.
All right.
So people are lining up to do the shootout thing. I would get in line for the shootout, and then I would get close to the front of the line and have to go play another match in the draw. So I'm not complaining because we're still winning in the draw, but at the same time, at some point, I'm like a little more worried about the shootout than I am like the draw. Right. But the draw's going real well, so okay, whatever. And then there are a couple of things that I hope next year, they did say they'd be back next year, that they do things a little bit differently. One of the things that I found that I mentioned to one of the organizers that I hope you change this next year is I thought the boards were too close together.
All right.
And part of that is on me because I don't stand directly in the middle.
Yeah.
I stand over to the side. So if I'm standing on the left side which I kind of do, but then the guy on the board next to me is standing on the right side. There wasn't a lot of room in between us. And, every now and then, a dart will bounce out, and they literally fly right in front of you and fall in front of your board. And, some of the less experienced people will actually, you're throwing, and they're leaning over picking up their dart.
Are there
stuff
any
like
closer
that.
than the cup?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are pretty close.
They were like 24 inches apart or whatever the distance was.
Right.
And the guy's like, well, that's, in Japan, that's kind of the standard distance. And I'm like, well, Americans are bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when I was doing the shootout, there was a guy on the board next to me who stood over on the right, and I'm standing over on the left, and I'm getting a little stressed
Clicking
out
heels.
because this guy is so close to me. And I felt, I was feeling kind of claustrophobic. And, that's just, it's on me. You're supposed to, deal with
Adapt.
what's in front of you
Right.
and focus and all that stuff. So I'm not blaming anybody but me for, a lack
You
of
just wish it
execution.
would be a little further
But
apart.
one of the things I said was, if you put the boards further apart, I think everybody would be happy, because I was awkward just walking back after
With everybody-
retrieving
with
my
the
darts.
Guys on each side of you.
Right, so like one of the guys I'm playing he pulls his darts, and because you don't have to chalk or anything, some people just turn around and walk straight back, which you're not used to seeing from the steel side. The steel side, everybody walks down the alley between the boards,
Right.
but in soft tip, and I asked somebody, I'm like, are you supposed to go to the left, go to the right? They're like, I don't know.
Nobody
Whatever.
knows. There's
Yeah,
no
so I don't
protocol
know
for
if
that?
there's I don't know if there's like a real protocol for that or not. So weird little things like that were tripping people up. And there were like some other things that went on that the steel tippers had a hard time adjusting. Some had a hard time adjusting to. There is a round limit to the cricket where once you go to 15 rounds, if you haven't won by then, whoever has the most points wins.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Well, I've never played it that way before, but it affects your strategy,
Yeah.
obviously. So I guess there were some matches where, guys are on the 20 and, people are trying to close numbers and they're just trying to hammer 20s, and get a big lead, where, like, some tournaments you can't have more than a 200-point lead.
Okay.
In cricket. I think it's an arachnid tournament where they don't count.
Yeah.
If you're pointing after 200 points. And these kinds of rules, I go back and forth on them because I can see why you would want to do it. You don't want events to drag on. This tournament was run with a lot of precision. And they kind of like want to keep it moving along. They had a field twice as big than they've ever had for one of these. They had a full field of 256 players, and usually the ones in Hong Kong, they cap it at 128. So they got twice as many players as they're used to. Right. They had more boards than they're used to having, too. So I assume it ran pretty much on
Smoothly.
time.
Yeah.
I think maybe 20 minutes late or something. I mean, that's it's an untimed event. I mean, there's no way of actually being that precise. So I thought that part went pretty good. But some of these things, like there's a limit on the cricket. Some people didn't even know.
How do you not know? Don't they give you a list?
They
of
posted
rules?
Yeah, they had some rules posted, but the print was so small I couldn't read it.
Oh.
And I didn't bring my reading glasses
Right.
with me, and I noticed it right away because it says in the upper left-hand corner, it says, round 1 of 15. Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, it must be a limit of 15 rounds. Okay, well, usually that's not going to really matter. In the match I lost, it really didn't matter because I don't know if it went 7 rounds. I mean, just watching this guy throw triples, and, I'm throwing 7 counts, he's throwing 9 counts. He throws 7 count, I throw 6 count, I lose.
Yeah.
In the cricket, right? All right, so get this. So Steve did something. Now here's the deal. I figured it out. It worked out perfectly. So here's the deal. I'm playing Jason Naird, who's a very good, experienced player. Used to play a lot, like maybe 10 years ago, and he's kind of coming back now. And I win the diddle, 701. I win the 701. He goes first in the cricket and smashes me, right?
Okay.
So I go first in the 701. I win that. He goes first in the cricket and smashes me.
Right.
I throw one hole off the double bull on the diddle for the 5th leg, and he throws one in the black, so he wins the diddle. He's like, I'll go first. What's the game? And I just stood there, and I'm like, well, going second in the cricket ain't really working. But I know you don't want to pick 0-1 because you
Right.
give him a chance to throw a perfect game, and then you never have a whack at anything. Well, he missed a couple of bulls in this 701, so I'm thinking, you know what? I can throw a perfect game. If I pick 701, I'm going to have a whack at something to win the game. And I didn't come close to a game shot in the cricket, so I pick 701. I go down. I only miss one bull, which is like the second to last bull in my fourth round or something, and it falls into a 2. So instead of being on 101 after 12 rounds, I'm on 149. Okay.
Sure.
I think he missed one bull too, so he was on like 135 and he missed it. So I got a whack at 149. Go for the bull, and it's master out, which is you can take it out with anything but a single.
Okay.
Right? So if you've got 30 left, you can throw a trip 10 or a double 15.
Sure.
Right? So 149, I go for the bull. I hit it. Now I'm on 99, and I'm like, okay, trip 20, double 13. Right?
All right.
Well, I haven't really thrown it to 20s the whole match, and naturally I throw it in the trip 5, and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not going to work. So I clean it up and leave a double that I never get a shot at.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, good match. What are you going to do?
So your strategy worked.
Well, I calculated. I figured that I would have a whack at something to win, and, I missed it.
Unfortunately, it was 149.
Well, it would have been nice if it was something else, like because you get a money bonus if you throw a 14-darter, and that was my plan. I was like, I'll throw a 14-darter, and if he misses, a bull and a half, I win. So that didn't work out too good.
Right.
But he played well, and, I have no problem with that. It was just sort of like you hate going out in the second round.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
Well, of course not.
So get this.
It's better than going out in the first round, I guess.
Well,
but,
yeah. Okay.
But not by much.
Well, yeah. Okay. I'll stop my whining. We'll go to our first commercial, and hopefully we'll have no live mics. And then we'll be back in a minute. Alrighty, and we're back for the second quarter.
The second quarter.
Right. Brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, thanks Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts.
Absolutely.
Just a reminder, you can always email us, darttalk@gmail.com. You can download the audio podcasts from iTunes, listen to them on Stitcher.com. If you want back episodes, you want to go to TuneIn.com. They've got them. I think they've got like the last 25 episodes or something. I guess I found this out, that Stitcher you can only hear the current episode. So the minute we put on a new episode, you can't hear the old one. Yeah, thank you, Luke Callias, for pointing that out to me, since I didn't know.
Yeah.
Since I tried Stitcher, it didn't work on my phone. That's why I use TuneIn, because I got the BlackBerry. And just thinking about that makes me ill.
Okay.
Thinking about the BlackBerry anyway.
Right. All right. So you didn't finish your story or get into it. What about the pictures?
Right.
So you had
Embarrassing moment number one.
Well, you had to wait for your money.
Right.
Because they had to take pictures.
They wanted to take pictures.
Right.
And this was probably the most photographed tournament I've ever been in. So it's Friday night, right? So my partner and I, let's go get a burger and then we'll go back. So we go get a burger. We come back and they're just wrapping up the final. So, okay, fine. So we go up for pictures. And we take a group picture of like the winning team, which was John Part,
right?
And then the team they beat in the final,
or in the finals,
and then the other team the other top 4 team, which was Paul Lim and somebody else, and then myself and Willie Walker. So they take a group picture, and then the photographer, David's like, well, I want a picture of each team. I'm like, okay, fine. So, Willie and I are on the end, and we kind of like separate ourselves. He takes a picture, and then the next team comes over, and he's like, Steve, you're in the background. I'm like, oh, okay. So I move back. Takes a picture of them, gets the next team over. They move over a little, he moves over a little, and I'm still in the background. So he's like, Steve, you're still in the background. I'm like, well, I guess I'll duck behind the machine.
Okay.
Then I'll totally be out of
Right.
the way. Unfortunately, the machine was at the end of the stage. So Steve just went flying into the blackness of night and just hit the ground.
You took a header?
Literally off, a backer, I guess, off the stage.
Flat on your back.
Well, yeah.
Pretty close.
Banged, got a nice bruise on my elbow. And it was
Did the
more.
guy get a picture of it?
I don't think so.
That would've been
I was
funny.
thinking that he'd have a picture of like my foot in the air or something like that.
Right.
So totally, radically embarrassing. And
Anybody say anything?
Paul Lim just covered his face. He was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. And then it's like, well, now, wait a minute. Are you okay? And I'm like, well, let me see.
Yeah, once you're okay,
well,
then
that
it's
works.
funnier.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
But that wasn't as bad as the other wipeout I had, which we'll get to. So anyway, the most photographed tournament I've ever been to, because when you went in for the singles on Saturday, they took an individual, they had a photographer there, like at senior prom, and they take a picture of every single player,
Really?
one by one by one,
Right.
256
As they're
players.
walking in.
Well, you walk in and you kind of check in, and then you go over in front of the photographer, and one at a time he takes your picture, and he takes a couple, hopefully, one comes out good.
Right.
I'm sure mine didn't, but I don't photograph that well. So I found that interesting, and it really there were so many.
What do they do with these photos?
I don't know. They use them for promotion, or they put them up on the website if you win, or I don't know what they do, but it's good to have photos of the players, and it was little touches like this that made this tournament not only special but like a much greater experience than any tournament I've ever been to, where you're treating the players like stars. Basically, we want our poster shot of you, right?
Right. Every
Every single player in the field, which I found totally amazing. And the stage that they live streamed a lot of the matches on Saturday as well as the final and everything, which you guys can probably get it off of YouTube. I'll post it when I find the
link.
because there's more than one match.
Right.
They were streaming for hours. I think they started in the round of 64 or something. So people were watching matches all day. Like that Sunday, I stayed up
Yeah.
to like
Right.
whenever it was, watching all those matches.
16 hours of darts or whatever.
Right. So they're live streaming worldwide the matches, but this stage was like unbelievable. I mean, with the lights and everything, and they had like a little smoke machine. They did like a little opening ceremony where they
Really?
tried to get the crowd revved up.
Yeah.
They had Chris Lim did a real nice job as master of ceremonies and everything. He's trying to get the crowd geeked up, and you had an audience, which we've been like saying on
you
this
need.
show
Exactly.
from day one. It's like these guys bust their butts to get in the final, and then their reward is to be ignored because they're calling the next event, which I've
Right.
always found, if not insulting, it kind of makes your accomplishment somewhat insignificant, whereas these guys, there's nothing else going on, and everybody's watching the final, and it got to the point where they scheduled a pool party for 6 p.m. on Saturday,
All right.
where they were going to do the blind draw for the Sunday 4-person event and all this, and so there were already 500 people watching the final, and people are coming down for the pool party that didn't feel like watching the final, and the final's still going on, and the pool party
So
hasn't
the crowd
started yet.
gets
So
bigger.
they're in there, crowding in there too. So
Yeah.
now you've got maybe 700 people watching. And I've seen YouTube videos of like the old like North American Open and stuff like that. Nowhere near the crowd that they had here.
yeah.
I mean, it was a great theater for darts. The only time I've ever seen a theater for darts in America. I know I don't go back as far as a lot of people
Right.
with the old North American Open and whatnot. Absolutely fantastic. And I talked to some of the people that were on stage, and they were just thrilled. It was just
I thought
so
it was
awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to play up there and get geeked up. And, they would interview the players before the match and, get a couple of words from them. And, dart players are not used to getting interviewed, especially before a match. And these guys, to their credit, did pretty well.
Yeah.
Had a sense of humor and everything. And the semis had some interesting aspects to them.
Why is that?
Well, there was a lot of talk about why didn't he close the 15s and why did he do this and why did he do that. So I want to get to this one cricket thing, and I don't know if we should do it now or talk more about the tournament.
I don't know. Do you have another spill you want to talk about?
Well, that came at the pool party.
Oh, okay. We can get to that later.
These two, two friends of mine, Weeble,
yeah,
and Trish Grezik tried to throw me in the pool, and I came down there in a bathing suit anyway. I mean, I was going to go in. I just didn't feel like going in then. So we had a little bit of wrestling match.
Right.
Weeble ended up wet in the water,
which
was fine
suit?
with me. I don't know. She, whatever.
Didn't matter.
But I ended up, flat on my keister on the deck of the pool, scrambling around, before, I got shoved in. But it was nice. Later, Trish and I did a little Thelma and Louise, held hands and jumped in and stuff. Yeah, it was fun. But I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. My back hurt. My neck felt like I had whiplash and stuff. And I'm like, why am I in pain at 3:30 in the morning? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Because your wrestling match?
Well, I guess that was
constantly falling down?
Yeah. Falling down on the concrete, I guess, was harder on my body than falling off the stage.
How high was the stage? About 3 feet?
5.
5 feet?
5 feet, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll leave a mark. That'll make you sore, that's for sure.
Yeah. Probably why I didn't play so good.
Yeah.
I must have
bruised
my elbow. No, it was...
or your ego.
Well,
One of the two.
I mean, there were a lot of... Some of the guys on stage were saying it was the toughest field they've ever seen. And, I had a problem with that, and I was kind of thinking about it. And a lot of the big soft tip tournaments, like the Medalist Tournament, the NDA Tournament, the Bull Shooter, some guys aren't allowed to play.
Okay.
Like the NDA is you have to play in the league.
Yeah.
Medalist, you have to play in the league. Bull Shooter, if you're associated with certain companies, won't let you play and stuff like that. And then it's a lot of travel. So it was nice. We saw a lot of West Coast people in Vegas. Some of them drove. It's a 3-hour drive, over the hill and stuff. So you got to see a lot. I got to meet, people from Alaska. By the way, hi, Shane, if you're listening.
But if you have the biggest crowd ever, wouldn't that lead to most likely the toughest field that these people have ever played?
Well, yeah, but some of them have played these PDC events. And I was kind of like, maybe they forgot about those or whatever. Because when you have Phil Taylor and Adrian Lewis and stuff like that, I mean, I can't imagine a field any tougher. But this field was brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, this field was like... I looked through the brackets and stuff, and I'm like, good player, good player, good player, good player, good player. I mean, there's so many good players. And then, you got guys like Scotty Miller and Tom Sawyer and Gunner, Lawrence Illigan from the Philippines, and the other semi guy was Nico De Peños. Basically didn't miss all day.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, I talked to people that had played them in the earlier rounds, and like, oh, the guy was phenomenal. Oh, he was phenomenal. Oh, he was phenomenal. So they were all playing really well. And then, it's different when you get on stage. It's a whole different deal. And I've heard about this from a lot of people that I talk to that play the British circuit, where there are guys that are known as good floor players.
Okay.
Right? They play phenomenal, but then once they get in front of the TV cameras, it's like a whole different deal. And, they don't perform as well as they normally do. Yeah. I would think it takes a few times.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more pressure, because I think it's more pressure getting to the final than it is playing the final. It's more pressure advancing to a stage match, then you're there. Then all you got to do is, keep playing. But I think the conditions are so much different, and guys might be a little self-conscious when they see, cameras staring them in the face and stuff like that. So, I don't know about the pressure part. But
there's more pressure to perform better in front of the camera.
Well, here's the deal. When
plus the fact that you're playing against a guy that's been playing just as well as you are.
Well, yeah. I mean, but it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be every round you have to raise the level of your game if you want to keep advancing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you start out really good and then you start, sliding and you're supposed to keep advancing. That's not how these,
Right.
events should go ideally. Sometimes what happens is when guys get to the final, they don't play as well as they did to get there. And if you haven't seen them play every match, you can have an erroneous perception of somebody's level of play. And I don't know I'm not saying that happened in the final, but once you get down, I think, is when the pressure really starts. When you're down 2 legs to 1, you're like, panic.
Yeah.
Panic mode kind of sets in. I can't miss anymore. And that kind of self-imposed pressure, I think, probably hurts people some. But what I noticed is that when guys were under pressure, it hurt their decision making, and that's why there was we had a long discussion.
Closing out.
Well, let me give you an example, and this is not from the final, but this is from a match where there was a lot of discussion. You're coming to the line, right? You need 3 bulls to win the game. You're up 67 points, and you have the 20s. They have 2 20s, but you can still point on them if you choose. You're up 67 points.
Right.
They have the bulls closed, so they're actually on game shot, right? They need 3 bulls to exceed your 67 points
and
a fat 20. So what do? You're coming to the line.
Yeah, and you can.
Let me
score
reiterate
on
it for the
you can
people
score
listening.
On 20s.
You can score on 20s. You're already up 67 points, and you need 3 bulls to win.
I would think you'd throw your first dart at a bullseye.
And that is the steel tip response.
Right.
I think most steel tippers would go for game shot there, and if their first dart isn't in the double bull,
then they point.
Well, yeah.
Or do you throw your first dart if you hit the triple 20, then you move to bullseyes?
Well, that's ideally, I think, what you want to do.
Now you're up 127, and
right. So they're off game shot because they need 6 bulls.
Yeah.
To me, I find that a defensive frame of mind. So I'm arguing with some soft tippers about it, and I'm like, well, look, if you're playing an 0-1 game and you're on 150, what are you going to do? You're going to go bull, bull, bull.
Yeah.
Which is what you basically do all day long.
Right, exactly.
So now in a cricket game, you're afraid to throw a hat trick? Well, it's not that you're afraid, right? What it is you're guaranteeing yourself 5 darts to win the game. Sort of. If you trip the 20 on your first dart, you have 5 darts to get 3 bulls, and all they can do is throw bulls to get points.
Right.
Right? I've seen, I don't know how many soft tip cricket players down points, close everything. So it's 3 bulls to 3 bulls.
Well, you're going to lose it.
Well, they don't want to get further. So they're defending against a shot like this. But when it comes down to it, it's like you got game shot in your hand. How much of a lead do you need to take game shot? Because I take game shot all the time with less than a 4-dart lead.
You would go for the bullseyes.
Well, that was my initial.
Or you would go for
my
the
initial
20.
response. And again, sometimes it kind of depends who you're playing, but 3 bulls and a fat 20 is pretty doable.
Yeah.
Right. The problem is if you go for the bull and you don't hit a double, what do? Because if you go for the bull again and you throw a single, you're pot committed. You have no choice now. You have to go for game shot.
You're right.
Right. If you go at the 20 and trip it, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Right? You're up 147 points, so you go for the bull. If, gosh forbid, you miss the bull on your second dart, you may as well just throw another 20.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you're still going to need 3 bulls to win the game. At one point, you're going to take game shot. And I remember the first time I saw Johnny Kaczynski, and I think it was Ray Carver, playing in the Windy City Open against, I think it was John Parton, Dan Olson in 2002 or something, like the first real tournament I went to.
All right.
Because I went to the Cup in March. They had it in March then.
And then
so
in September.
Right. So I'd been playing 11 months. And I'm watching these guys, and it's like a bullseye 17 war, and I'm like, they're on game shot. but they're not taking it. They're pointing on 17s to keep these guys off game shot, and then these guys are throwing bulls to keep them off game shot. And after the match, I said, I have to ask. And I was with these guys that, had played longer than me, like from, teammates and stuff. And they're like, don't ask him, don't ask him. Don't. I'm like, I have to ask. I got to know.
I have to.
And I went to Johnny Kaczynski, and I'm like, you have game shot, and you don't take it. At what point do you take it?
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to start talking about hypermodern cricket in, I don't know if it'll be next week or the week after, because I was trying to explain to somebody, when you look back on a cricket match that you've played, like let's say you went second. You and I played cricket, and I went first, and I threw like a ton, and then, we went on and on and on and on. And I ended up winning, and you never closed the 20s.
Right.
I'm sure that's happened.
Oh, absolutely.
It's happened to everybody.
Sure, yeah.
And what I say is like, look, when you look back on a cricket match like that, and you really think about it, there was one point in the match where you had an opportunity to close the 20s. Maybe you would still be down points, but at some point, unless you got totally smoked, at some point you had a chance to close the 20s, and either you took it or you didn't. But the idea there is that there's always your best opportunity to do something, and either you do it or you don't. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've closed the 20s down points because I'm like, enough's enough,
Right.
I'm talking about these cricket players that'll close numbers even though they're down points, and then they're trying to pressure you into missing the 3 fat bulls to win the game.
Right.
In which case, they'll have to hit the 3 bulls to win the game or whatever.
Did you get an answer as to what point do you take game shot?
Well, in soft tip, because the triples are bigger. Not necessarily that they're easier to hit, but I mean, they're bigger.
They're bigger, yes.
If you trip the 20, then you go at the ball. And I think that was the consensus among the soft tippers I played in this one particular situation. Because what happens invariably is you put 2 in the bowl, and if one flights out, now they're on a relatively, it's a harder game shot than yours, right? Because they have to get 3 bowls and 2 darts.
Yeah.
You only need 3 bowls and 3 darts. And I don't know how many hat tricks I threw over the weekend, but I'm kind of like, look, 3 bowls and 3 darts is not. It's not so hard that you should be afraid of it, and it's not so hard that you haven't done it 100 times. So what's the situation here? And the guy's like, well, it was a 5th leg, and I'm like, okay, well, but you're being very defensive, and it seems to me that when you're defensive playing cricket, you invariably lose. You need a certain aggressive mentality to play cricket well. You know what I mean? When you get tentative or you're worried about the other guy more than you should, you miss.
Well,
if you're worried about the other guy's 9 count instead of you throwing your own 9 count, you invariably miss, and you invariably lose.
Right, but
it's a mental.
So you're saying it's defensive to be thrown at the triple 20 on your first start?
It's a defensive mindset to be like playing defense when you got game shot, right? It's sort of like, can you imagine you're going down court for a dunk, and then you're like, oh, well, if I dunk this, they might have too much time left, so I'm going to go dribble around.
Yeah.
You dunk it, and then you play defense. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a different mentality, and I understand the math to it.
Right.
If you trip the 20 on your first start, you're golden.
Yeah.
Right? You got 2 free darts at the bowl. You're still on game shot, and they now have absolutely no prayer of winning in their next 3 darts.
Right.
So mission accomplished.
Hit 3 bulls and 5 darts, basically.
The idea, though, what the one guy was arguing with me is like, well, I'll go for the bull first, and if I don't hit the double bull, then I'll go 20s. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Right? If you're going to play defense, play defense. Throw it at the 20, and if you don't trip it, throw it again.
Right.
Right?
You have to.
Well, 80 points is even better, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to point. If you're going to close. Don't try to do both and be wishy-washy. That's where the mental part of it, the good cricket players I see aren't really worried about what you're going to do. They're worried about what they're doing, and that's your problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you start worrying too much about what the other guy's throwing instead of what you're going to throw, that's invariably, I think, one of the mental traps that people get into.
That makes sense.
And then they're scratching their heads like, hey, what happened? That was the one thing I wanted to talk about. And there's one other point. Oh my gosh, we're long. Let's take there's one other thing I want to get to, and then we got to do some results. But
Okay.
there's one other point I want to make that I found extremely edifying in some of the conversations. I had a lot of conversations with a lot of good players over the weekend, so I want to kind of convey some of this to everybody. So we'll be back in a second. Okay, and we're back for the second half, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor.
Yet another point.
Well, I wanted to talk about blind draws a little bit, and it's not something that I don't think we really talked too much about.
Not
But
really.
there was one instance that I really felt might be edifying for people, even good people, and that is if you look at guys who always play with the same people, they have a lot of, I don't know quite how to put this. They don't always see the game the same way, but if they have any sort of doubts, they'll talk to each other. When you play with strangers, it's hard to kind of if you even tell if you see games the same way or not. So there was one particular instance where people didn't communicate well with each other, and there was some sort of uncertainty about what to shoot at or something like that. And then in the end, they didn't win, and they were unhappy.
Yeah.
Well, of course you're unhappy. You didn't win. But it got me to thinking, and I just wanted to kind of make the point that especially if you're the stronger player, like in a blind draw or something, if you can manage to communicate with your partner early and come to an understanding, you end up invariably not only having a better time, but you perform so much better.
Sure.
Right? I've been playing for what? I'm going on 11 years now. I'll have 11 years on Halloween, right? I've been around the locals all
You
know
started
me.
on Halloween?
Started on Halloween, 2001.
Did
yeah.
you do that on purpose just so you
Nah,
remember
just-
the date?
No, it's just coincidence.
You went dressed as a darter?
No, it had nothing to do with Halloween. It just happened to be on
on
Halloween.
Halloween.
It,
All right.
Nothing. Yeah, didn't have anything to do with that. No, but so I'm pretty well known locally. So if
Yeah.
I go to a blind draw, a lot of people defer to me.
Exactly.
Oh, of course you're going to diddle. Of course you're going to start. You tell me what to throw at. Well, I don't really want to do that if I don't have to, because it kind of pulls my focus from my own game. So what I'll say to somebody if they have that look in their eye,
Yeah.
I'll be like, look, if you have any questions, you just ask me. Otherwise, you play your game, and I got your back. And that makes them feel better.
Yeah.
As opposed to just standing there grim and serious and saying, okay, well, that was the wrong shot. All right,
Well,
you got to shoot
only,
this.
right. Not
shoot
only
this,
that, then
shoot
they're going
this,
to pause
shoot this.
between each dart, waiting for you to tell them what to throw at. They're not going to be in a rhythm. They're just going to throw worse.
Well, the other thing is I've seen people that if they don't have to think and you just tell them what to shoot at, they actually hit it.
Oh.
You know,
Yeah.
and I've been ripped by people because the way I play blind draws with beginners and stuff. Sometimes if they're really a beginner
You just
and
tell
we're
them to
playing
throw at the
01,
11, 14.
yeah, trip 14s.
Yeah.
And I had somebody after we beat them was like
Of
ripping
course.
on me. Well, why would you do that? Why would you do that? They're not going to get any better doing that. I'm like, well, I'm just trying to get through this event. I didn't take them on the raise.
Right.
You know, obviously, is it better if I lose and they learn that, you know, it's good to hit a triple 20? I think they'll figure that out on their own. Let's just get through this event. Just give me some help.
Still
and,
could make
you know,
them better when they get used to throwing it consistently at the same number over and over again. And
yeah. I just chalk that up to sour grapes.
Right.
You got beat by somebody throwing at the 14.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a long ride home.
yeah.
Right? And I've seen
I
people
agree.
like throw 7 counts on the 14. You know? There's
Yeah.
plenty of points, 126 points or whatever it is. I mean, 84, 90, whatever it is. 96 points, whatever it is. It's fine. What's the problem? 112?
98.
What's a 7 count? 98?
98.
Okay, I'm having having a senior moment here. Okay, so we do have some results. Let's get to let's start with see, and we didn't get to any of this either. Where are the results? Where did I put them? I have them here. Hang on, we got them. Let's
I don't
do
know,
the
you saved them somewhere.
well, let's do the stage, and I'll run through these. For the World Stage 7, which was the big event on Saturday, top 16, Antonio Alcinas, Cyril Blot, Frankie Guillemot, Dave Fathom, Laura Thau, Eric Blackledge, Bill Davis, and Hirokazu Osaki. Top 8 was Gary Mawson, Mike Brewer, Larry Butler, and Paul Lim. Top 4, Tom Sawyer and Nico DePanos. Second place, Scotty Miller, local Wisconsin, Northern Illinois guy.
Yeah.
And the winner was Gunner, Lawrence Logan. So congrats to all those guys. Some great darts that they played. And if you look through how many of these guys are steel players, I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So in my never humble opinion, this is by far the strongest field they've ever had for one of these things. And everybody agreed that I talked to, and I talked to quite a few of the guys. We do have some more results here. Hang on. Let's get the gallon. The gallon was the what they did was at
They
the pool
paired you
party.
together?
Well, yeah, at the pool party Saturday night, they grouped players into like Pro A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Right, and then they blind drew the A, B, and C people. So you had a room at the top for a pro. And then at the pool party, they started drawing the pros.
Okay.
Right? So it was fun. You know, it was like you played best of 5, 901, open out, which means anything
Yeah.
is an out.
Right.
Right? If you have 11 left, you can hit a fat 11. Which, you know, because you have beginners playing, I think, you know, is fine.
Sure.
Right? And then everybody's just trying to throw, you know, 3 bowls, you know, whatever. But it was, I thought it was pretty interesting. So the top 4 of the World Gallon, and everybody seemed to be having a really good time. Everybody seemed to enjoy the event. It was friendly competition.
Right.
You know, it was still serious and everything. But I don't know. I thought it was a really cool way to end up the weekend. And I liked the way Dartslive incorporated, you know, some amateur players in with the professionals. Because Saturday, there were people who played in the blind draw Friday. They had a blind draw for pros and then a blind draw for non-pros. They kind of like had 2 of them running at the same time, right?
Okay.
So the non-pros got to play. They took Saturday off, but they could watch the final, hang out at the pool party. And then on Sunday, they had, while the pros were playing in the world pairs, they had 2 blind draws for the non-pros. They had like an A for the better players and a B for the, you know, intermediate players.
Right.
So they had 2 blind draws going there, and then they ran their finals up on the stage before the World Pairs. So even the B player final, they went up on stage like everybody else. And I'm sure it was a thrill. They looked totally geeked up to be up there. And I'm thinking,
kept everybody involved.
Well, yeah, but I think, if I was a B player and I saw that, the only thing I'd be thinking is like, man, I want to be up there next year. That just looks like such a kick, right? And I think it's important that everybody has something to shoot for. So the A players be like, well, maybe next year, I can get up there and like play with the big boys, what have you. So I thought that was pretty cool. So top 4 in the World Gallon was Scott Miller, Pete Linares, Patrick Farrell, and Omar Melchor. Third place, Jose Perales, Dave Bills, Timothy McGuire, and Jennifer Ong. Second place, Scott Minstretta, Greg Fontaine, Edward Jones, and Vanessa Helton. And the winners were Lawrence Ilagan, who won the singles, Jerry Johnson, Bruce Heaton, and Leah King. So it's 3 women.
Yeah.
3 women made the top 4. I think that's pretty awesome. So well played by everybody. For the World Pairs, Big Dog, Randy Van Duerson, and Scott Miller, second place to Paul Lim and Scotty Kirchner. Congrats to them. So all the local guys plus Paul Lim.
Right.
That's pretty cool. The shootout was the thing that I told you we had to play during the blind draw and stuff like that. That's that around the world thing.
Right.
Where you get 24 darts, you get 8 rounds. Got to hit the 1, then the 2, then the 3, and then if you miss and you knock out that, it's like a multiplier thing. So the first dart is ×1, the second dart is ×2, the third dart is ×3, whatever you hit.
Yeah.
Right? So if you go for the 1 and you throw it in the 20, you get 20 points, but then your 20th dart, there's no 20.
Okay.
Right? So what I was doing is I'd go like fat 1, fat 2, fat 3, and I wouldn't start throwing at triples until I got, I think, to the 9. Because I don't want to hit the 16 and the 15 and the 17 by accident, the 18 or the 20 or anything, because those are...
How do you keep track of what numbers you've canceled out?
It gives you a little picture, and it wipes out the numbers that you've hit and shows you the ones that are left. Yeah, it takes a little getting used to, but it's kind of a cool little game.
So, you could get up to the 20th dart and look, and you have a 5 left.
Well, what you do is if you miss the 5, then you get it on your next start, because you want to hit the 5 when the multiplier is low.
Okay.
You don't want to waste it when the multiplier is high.
Right.
I'm pretty sure everybody did that. And then if you don't miss a dart, your last 3 darts are at the bull. And a double bull's worth almost 1,000 points on the 24th and 23rd and 22nd dart.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So for the shootout, they kept like a separate thing. And then that's what they use for seeding. So 10th place was Dave Cameron. 9th, Tony Martin. 8th, Patrick Cron. 7th, Ben Dersch. 6th, Paul Lim. 5th, David Fathom. 4th, Darren Young. 3rd, Jeremiah Millar. 2nd, Frank Guillemot. And Larry Butler won that.
Nice.
I think he got like a few $100 for coming in first there. And he got over 10,000 points, which is a pretty good score. I went through all
the only one over 10,000.
Yeah, and I looked at all the other scores, and I think there's only been 2 guys that shot over 10,000 in the 6 stages they've had this year. So it's a pretty good score.
Pretty impressive.
So congrats to them. So where were we now? We're just babbling on and on and on.
There's something else you wanted to talk to off of that list that is now gone.
There is? What?
No, not that list.
I did those. What, the other list?
Before you did the results.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I wanted to talk about, we had a kind of a long discussion about dress code.
You did in Vegas?
Yeah, and it evolved
into... Is there not a dress code for this tournament? Well,
there were 2. They had a dress code for Saturday, but then a different dress code for Sunday, because Saturday was televised and everything. And we started talking about what kind of standards are you going to have. You're trying to like grow a sport and all this stuff, and you want to televise it, and that what standards are you going to apply and enforce for matches that are on television? For instance, like the PDC, you're not allowed to drink during a PDC event. You can only drink water, right? And I've literally seen British pros look at your bottle of water and unscrew the cap and sniff it to make sure it doesn't smell vodka, like gin. Right. So, I mean, I think that's kind of funny. And somebody was telling me a story about, Phil Taylor had kind of like the wrong shoes on, and they made him go change them.
Wow.
Right. And the PDCs changed their shoe rule. It used to be you had to use street shoes, and they've kind of relaxed it. Now you can use quote, black athletic shoes if they're all black, but then I've seen people kind of get away with,
White?
magenta stripes or something.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, all I want to say about this is if you're going to set the rules, you got to enforce them. And then it's a matter of what rules are you going to set? Because there was a lot of discussion about guys wearing gym shoes. And it's like, well, I didn't know you could wear gym shoes. I thought you had to wear street shoes. And I didn't bring any gym shoes. I did bring flip-flops. But they specifically banned sandals. And it's kind of like, well, gym shoes are okay on one day, but not on another day. And then sandals are okay on one day or never okay. And it's like, what are we trying to accomplish here?
So you're thinking the rules should be the same for both days, even though it's not televised?
I'm not saying that exactly. What I'm saying is, what are you trying to accomplish with the rules? Because I was arguing with somebody, one of the pros, and I'm like, look, if you're a recreational player, you shouldn't have to dress like the professionals. If you're used to playing, in a T-shirt and flip-flops and shorts, and now you're at a dart tournament and you want to play in a T-shirt, flip-flops, and shorts,
right?
And you're an amateur, there shouldn't really be any problem with that. If you're going to play with the pros, then you have to follow the pros' dress code, right? So like on Saturday, which was the only event on Saturday, was the big singles. They had, pretty strict dress code. You had to have, dark slacks, collared shirt, la-di-da-di-da, which is fine. I'm used to that. But I don't understand why on Sunday some guys were saying everybody should dress like this. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's really a good idea.
Did the pros still have to dress like that on Sunday or just on Saturday?
Well, apparently gym shoes were okay.
Oh.
But I mean, they were wearing like their collared shirts and stuff like that. And this notion though, it got me to thinking that, what are you trying to accomplish with your standards? If you want to have a dress code, what are you really saying, right? You want the sport to come off professional,
yeah,
right? You're streaming this on live around the world. It's your event. This is your product. Right, this is
correct.
What you're showing people, like the NFL fining people for having the wrong color socks,
exactly,
or something. Like, did you notice in baseball, some guys wear the pants right up to their knee and you could see the stirrups, and other guys nowadays they wear pants down to their ankles.
Yeah, all the way down to their.
I don't understand.
Shoes.
I don't understand, and I'm sure this is a union deal, right? Where the union is like, well, look, you can't make these guys pull their pants down all the way, and some guys like it. I don't think it looks good as a team to have guys with two different kinds of pants running around. Right. I think it looks kind of silly. If you're in a uniform, be in the uniform. The NFL, on the other hand, goes kind of overboard on it.
They all have to have the same shoes. They all have to have,
Yeah, I mean, it's a little too, kind of communist.
Right.
One-party rule. But the idea that you should have standards, what I argued was like, look, the professionals should have a standard, and they should set it, and then the people that want to be professionals should be emulating it. But you shouldn't make them do it.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're standing on your feet all day long. I mean, I've seen women in 4-inch heels. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they turn their foot and walk to the board, but they seem to be able to handle it. Gym shoes, like I couldn't wear gym shoes in high school. We had to wear street shoes, and I went to like a Catholic high school, and we had like a dress code, but it wasn't like a uniform. Your hair had to be like cut above your collar, which explains this. Which, by the way, the ponytail is going to go when you guys pony up.
Right.
We need to mention this. So you go to johnnyk180@hotmail.com on PayPal, and you make a donation, and in the subject line put haircut. We're trying to raise money for Johnny K's Toys for Tots.
Do we have any inclination if there's...
You know what? I sent him a text to see where we were at, and I didn't hear back from him before my phone died. So we'll have an update for everybody next week. And I was kind of getting the word out to everybody, so we'll see. I'm pretty sure we're going to start hitting some people up. Yeah.
All right.
We're going to start pressuring some people. But that was just a reminder on that.
Help Toys for Tots.
Yeah, help Toys for Tots. Let's take like a real quick 30-second break. Let me catch my breath here, and then we'll wrap this up, okay? You're listening to Dart Talk with Steve and Mark, and we will be right back. Okay, and we're back for the fourth quarter, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
The DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Well, we got all our plugs in.
Yeah, pretty good. So what? When you were showing the shootout,
Yeah.
so why would they choose to seed it that way instead of? Is that the only way to seed it, or how do they come up with that? I mean, don't they have?
Well,
they don't have a point system or anything to seed.
they don't really. No, they don't really. I mean, they keep track of their own points. So if you play a bunch of stages, then they have their own points list.
But
which
anybody
I assume,
can go to any stage. So
well, because it's international and not everybody's going to go to every event. Right. It seems like a pretty good way to do it. And also, they added something that they announced that whatever country has the most points among their players is going to get like a lot of money.
okay,
Like, I don't know, 12 grand American, 100,000 Hong Kong, that they could split them up amongst each other. And the Philippines were winning before Lawrence won. So the Philippines, with one stage to go, are looking pretty good.
all right.
But the idea the idea behind seeding, for the record, is it's a way to try to balance out the field.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have all the and it comes out of a desire to identify the best player on a given day in a given competition. It's if you look at any sporting event, any big time sporting event, they don't try to make it where everyone can win. They try to make it where the best player wins. Okay? So when they do the NCAA tournament, the basketball tournament, the top player or the top teams, as determined by, the committee of
idiots,
whoever. Well, I mean,
No.
a lot
But
of the polling is sort of
Right.
like self-fulfilling prophecies, right?
but they're taking their body of work. And
Well, yeah, and they look at things like strength of schedule and
Yeah.
all this, but eventually number 1 plays number 64,
Yeah.
which is invariably quite a
they
blowout.
could play number 65.
But the idea is to give like the 4 best teams
The best route to get to the
to the Final Four,
Yeah.
because the Final Four is what is compelling for the fan. You want to see the 4 best teams go at it,
yeah.
right? And in the meantime, all these other teams that want to be one of the 4 best teams get a crack at you, right? So just because you're seeded doesn't mean you make it through.
No, plus it makes good
Right.
conversation for the top seeds that lose.
Yeah, and as far as like covering a sport, it's a great way to do it. Now, if you look at the seeds here, so the number 1 seed was Larry Butler.
Yeah.
He made top 8. Frank Guillemot made top 8. I don't know where Jeremiah was. I don't know where Darren was. Paul Lim, I think, made top 8. So 3 of the top 10 seeds made it top 8, and nobody got past there.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's not like seeding determines who's going to win. What seeding does is it tries to balance out the field so that you don't end up with all the really strong players in one quarter knocking each other out before the TV cameras are on.
True.
Right?
Right.
Every
But how does
sport
how
does
the
this.
shootout. How does
Well,
that
the shootout,
determine?
because who's
For the-
playing the best that day gets the top seed. It doesn't matter if you look at the results. It doesn't
Right.
really matter. It doesn't mean you're going to win. But what you're trying to do is spread the field out so everybody.
You want compelling TV.
You want compelling TV, but also you don't want a bunch of good players to all knock each other out before the TV cameras come on. Whereas, like, a bunch of weaker players are going to end up in the final, and then they're going to get killed.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you want compelling matches. You want to identify the best player on a given day, which, as much as I said last week, I think, that I wasn't terribly fond of this format, that I thought, like, the 0-1 games were sort of a coin flip, and I'm not a big fan of cricket anymore.
Right. So we've discussed.
Yeah, we have. But if you look at who made it through, the top players made it through. So the format wasn't too short,
Yeah.
right? And the event did identify who was playing best on a given day, right? Now, it may have turned out that, whoever came in second ran out of gas. I mean, kind of depends on your perception of the match or what have you. But I thought that was successful. So I actually like the format better now that I've played it than I did just looking at it in theory, right? Which is always helpful. So, but the notion of seeding where you're going to spread out the top players so they're not going to knock each other out in the round of 128 or something. If you want to create a sport that people can, bet on, which is kind of how you really grow a sport, right?
Much.
I mean, where would football be if it wasn't for fantasy football and people gambling with parlay cards and all that? I mean, how many people would really want to see two teams in Week 10 where one is 1-8 and the other is 2-7? I mean, how compelling is that?
Well, that's why there's a line.
Well,
it makes it compelling.
That's not why there's a line. I mean, the line is okay. I don't have to get into like the theory of
betting,
vigorish, but if you look at how the Brits, who have a successful model of promoting darts as a sport, people can wager. It's legal in England. You can wager on who you think is going to win, and that makes you a more involved fan. And if you're a serious enough fan where you're looking to see who's winning, then you're going to read the newspapers. You're going to read the blogs. You're going to read all the chatter because you're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Now you're an involved fan.
Yeah.
Right? That's how sports in America kind of evolved. It all evolved kind of out of, barroom wagering and stuff like that. So an event like this, if it's not seeded, who knows what's going to happen? You know what I mean? If you had the 10 weakest players all in the same quarter, one of them's getting through.
Right.
What have you just identified? Zilch.
Well, yeah, nothing.
Yeah, and then whoever plays them in the round of 16 has a much easier time getting into the round of 8. Now, it's different if they play somebody and they upset the seed. Then that's different. Then they're Cinderella, and you can root for them. You see, so organizing the competition in a what I consider a fair way. Whether I'm seeded or not, if you're spreading everybody out, you want to be in a bracket that has like the top 4 teams, what are your odds of getting through?
Right.
You get through one and you got another one right after that. I mean,
and another one. Right.
And I've played in events like that. I've played in events where my toughest round was the first round, and then it kind of got easier and easier and easier. And it's like, it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be the other way. It's supposed to get harder and harder and harder. That's when you have compelling television. That's when you get the drama, and that's what brings fans in. Fans want to see a good match. They want to see a high-quality level of play. They don't want to see blowouts. They want to see guys play good, bang it out, and then, something clutch at the end to win it. That's exciting, and that sells.
I agree with that.
Right? So I have no problem with the master out thing in theory because it gives you a chance to see big scores more often. It gives you a chance to see big outs. You don't see a lot of ton 39 outs in steel. I had 2 of them on Sunday alone. Well, yeah, you bull, trip 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the first one wasn't luck, but the idea though, the idea is that, for an average person, that's not easy to do.
Exactly.
Right? So, okay, so you get to see it. It's awesome. Well, wow, check it out. 139 out. Boom, boom, boom. 3 perfect darts. Awesome. Let's move on to the next leg. And you can keep doing that. And I think with everything else that they're trying to do, with the presentation, with the attention to detail they have, with the quality of players that you have now, which I'm convinced is the quality of play now is higher than it was maybe 10, 15 years ago. I wasn't around, so old timers, forgive me. Yeah. This is just on the steel side I'm talking about. I don't know anything about soft tip. I'll be your first to tell you that, Randy.
Still an opinion.
Well, we're involved in the show in trying to cover darts as a sport. Yeah. And all this stuff makes it so much easier to cover it as a sport because the organizers are treating it like a sport and the players are treating it like a sport and the fans are treating it like a sport, and now it's a sport.
Yeah.
It's awesome. As far as some of the stuff in the chat room, I'm not going to go into any of that, I'm sure it will come up at a later time. Well, no, because there were people on Sunday that didn't show up.
Yeah.
So in the first round, the team we were supposed to play was missing an A player. So then they got a guy. They recycled an A player, but he didn't realize he got recycled. So they literally had to pull a name out of the trash and get another player for these poor 3 people that didn't have a fourth.
Right.
Paul Lim's kid ended up stepping in, and he's like, had already put his darts away for the day, I'm pretty sure. So he's kind of like, oh, I got to play again? Okay, fine. He jumps in there, says hello, and off he goes. But, I don't think he was prepared to play his best because I think he would, figured he was done. And I talked to another. I talked to one of the pros. He's like, yeah, we were out in the first round. And I'm like, well, did you get recycled? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, they're recycling pros. There's a couple of guys didn't show up. I mean, stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
I was really, when I woke up at 3:30 in the morning in pain, I was thinking, I wonder if I'm going to be able to play. No, seriously. I mean,
you did.
I had to, guzzle some ibuprofen. And
no, I could see how you would think that for sure.
I mean, it was like, I'm not going to go up there and like really sting.
Yeah.
Going to be like, hey,
Every
I
time
got to pull out. I
hurts.
can't. I've never pulled out of an event in my life, but I was like,
you've also never fallen off stage, I don't think.
It was the wipeout at the pool on the concrete. I think I bounced up about 2 feet from what I heard. I mean, I couldn't really see it, and I lost my hat.
Which hat?
The one Jill's parents got me from Florida, and the girl, because
hadn't you lost that previously?
Got it back,
and you got it back.
Gone
and now
again.
You've lost it again.
And I said, I'm going to find one online, and you're going to have to send me one because this is like this aggression cannot stand.
Maybe it'll come back again.
Well,
we can find out.
Let's play with Steve's hat another weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Can we wrap this up?
Absolutely.
Sorry if we didn't get to something. You guys can always email darttalk@gmail.com, and we'll try to add it in. I'm sorry I don't have the results from the draws. I will get them, and we'll have them next week because I'm sure there's some interest in that.
Yeah.
You going to go to the Cup this weekend? Illinois State Championship?
I'm not sure. I might go on Sunday.
You should make an effort.
Saturday, I don't know if I can make it.
You should make an effort. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it, but
I'll try. I'll try and get out there.
The last update I heard for those of you who are curious about Chris Helms is he's been holding his own, but it's still kind of touch and go. So prayers and condolences are certainly appreciated. There's also, if you go to Chris's Facebook page, I think they've set up some sort of donation thing or something, or if you're interested in something like that and you don't know who to talk to, send me an email and I'll forward it to the appropriate parties if you're interested in helping out. Other than that, let's get rid of my hair.
Yeah, help out Johnny K and Toys for Tots, and let's get Steve's haircut.
And I'm going to keep a list, so anybody that doesn't donate money can't complain about Steve's ponytail anymore because this is your chance to get rid of it. So, go to PayPal, Johnny K180. 180 at hotmail.com and make a donation. Put haircut or Dart Talk in the subject line. And
so we can tally it up.
Yeah, let's raise some money for the kids.
Yeah.
Holiday season's starting. Right?
Absolutely.
Got anything else?
No, I think that about covers it.
Okay, then we'll let's wrap it up, and we will Dart Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, everybody take care.